dependent on like the real estate they have. If they don't have a lot of real estate to work with and they want to put new positions in, sometimes like that will force the hand of the site to say, okay, we have to demo this in order to put something new in. Hey everyone, Mike Witt here with Kontek Industries, and with me I got Matt Scott, and this is episode 33 of Complacency Kills. And today we're going to hop on a short podcast and just have a little conversation, especially for those of you in the nuclear security and DOE security sectors might find this a little interesting. But really we're going to sit down and talk about our BREs, our blast and ballistic rated enclosures, kind of discuss how they impact the industry, and some things that you should be looking for if you are looking down the path of future upgrades. Like, here are some things you should probably take into consideration as you're going into your planning process. So if you could, Matt, just tell everyone what you currently do here and what your background is in the industry.
So I've been here about 6 years, been the national sales manager for critical infrastructure. Mainly my go-to or meal ticket is nuclear and or DOE. So I just go around nuke sites and helping out the fellow folk and make sure that their security is definitely up above par.
Okay. So can you kind of share, for those that aren't in nuclear security and, are watching or listening, can you kind of, tell everyone what a blast and ballistic rated enclosure is, especially a tower elevated one, and kind of what their purpose serves?
Yeah, certainly. So a lot of people have this conception of whenever they think of a guard tower, they look at look at the castle walls, expecting a guard tower. Look at a prison facility, look at a guard tower. However, there's a lot more that actually goes into that, especially at a nuclear site and or DOE site. So we look at several means, and looking at the blast criteria needed for that. Is the blast and or standoff of said blast going to impact that?
You mean blast from like an explosive when you say
Correct,
that?
Correct, yeah, okay. From an explosive. And I'll get a little bit more into that. And then, you're looking at your ballistically rated portion of the BBRE or BRE for short. And that ballistically rated portion is, it can be rated from, 9 mil all the way up to 50 cal AP. And then obviously the enclosure. So we're looking at either a box or a customized solution, and it can be either a ground level inside of a building, or it can be tower elevated. Mainly what I typically deal with is tower elevated BRE. Sorry.
Okay. So like, why would nuclear security be interested like in a tower elevated position versus other solutions that might be on the ground level or utilizing existing buildings that are already on their property?
No, good question. So we have something called the NRC, so the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and they basically have teams that go and they do an assault or at least test the nuke's defenses. So they send out their adversaries to go out and kind of get through or penetrate their simple defenses or lack thereof, large or solid defenses of these nuke sites. And so the best means to do so is to get a better hand, and that means that getting your tower elevated so you can get a better angle, better sight picture, because we all know higher is better for, especially in an angle, to see whatever oncoming threats are coming.
Okay. And I just want to kind of chime in here a little bit. So, one of the things that's interesting is, there's definitely been a shift over like the early 2000s to now. A lot more sites we see going with, standalone tower elevated positions, or ones that happen to be still a standalone tower integrated position, but it's integrated back into an existing facility. So it could be a response area to where it's not manned all the time. However, if there is, an incident to respond to, they can go from their standard post and quickly make entry into the tower. But something that's on BREs that's also interesting, but it's kind of one of those things that has to be done during new construction for the most part. I know we see it a lot at quite a few sites, especially the newer constructed ones. But they'll just have their BREs integrated directly into the actual structures on site.
Yeah, a lot.
Whether they're on top of the buildings or integrated into the side, it does give a bit of concealment, especially when it's match typed with paint and texture and everything to the existing structure. So there's a lot of different considerations, but again, the big thing going back to the tower is a lot of these sites, what they're doing is they're using them along their exterior perimeter, right? So they're trying to gain as much visual coverage as well as fire coverage over their perimeter to actually be able to respond to them, as opposed to a lot of the BREs that are located on top of buildings or on the side of buildings. Those are typically more interior positions. And so if you're limited to your interior, a lot of times you can't engage adversaries until they're, potentially, through your SOCA and on their way, on the way to the PA.
You have any past experiences that you have to deal with something like that, or at least on site when you're talking to the security personnel, and they've had like these instances where, hey, we can't see over this particular area or this hill or this building. Like, what can you provide?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times what they end up doing is they use, companies like Rhino Core or similar. And so they'll go and kind of map out all those particular areas and get an idea of where they actually need coverage. So usually we're coming in after the fact, and they already have an idea of like, hey, we need coverage on this area. This is kind of what we're thinking in terms of height, field of view, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And then we have to come in on the back end and take a look at the ground area that they're desired to put the BRE. Is it feasible? And then once that's really determined, we have to look at, okay, what do we have to do engineering-wise as it relates to stairs and towers and the actual BRE up top to actually facilitate what they're looking for. So, yeah, a lot of times we're coming in, I would say mid-process, once they have their security strategy kind of identified, and then kind of fitting that last piece of the puzzle of this is how we're actually going to execute on your desired outcome.
I hate that. Well, I want to ask another question. Okay, so they're ready to go ahead and fire off a new security strategy, right? But they currently have BREs, or at least, let's say, ballistic-rated enclosures somewhere amongst their perimeter, and they know that they're going to go ahead and have to shift, either using Rhino Core or some other assistant, and to at least remove said positions and place them anew. How often do you see that happen?
I mean, it's not infrequent to where, all of the sites already have existing infrastructure that they have manned positions at, right? So the question is when we come in after, like I said, Rhino Core or Vert or any one of those companies come in and kind of do their assessment, is us coming on the back end and working with the site to determine, like the existing positions, do they actually need to be demolished and removed? Can they be abandoned in place? And if they are abandoned in place, how does it impact their security strategy? And then also dependent on like the real estate they have. If they don't have a lot of real estate to work with and they want to put new positions in, sometimes like that will force the hand of the site to say, okay, we have to demo this in order to put something new in. But it's all very case by case scenario. Sometimes, yeah, you can get away with abandoning in place, assuming you have enough real estate to put in your new equipment in.
I think I've encountered that maybe 3 or 4 times now on site, where you get that proverbial slap on the head, like, oh, we shouldn't have like gotten these, or we shouldn't have went this way 10 years ago. I'm like, oh, we'll just go ahead and abandon it in place. So, the next steps is, okay, do you want us to go ahead and remove this for you? I'm like, nah, we're good. We'll just cut off the stairs and weld the door shut, some good old backwards or, something. But it obviously works for them. But just having that tower with the BRE on it, welded door shut, and they're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, again, it really just depends on how it's going to impact their security strategy. If it's feasible, like their main concern, right? The two things you have to think about if you're abandoning in place is really, A, is this giving any advantage to the adversary if they were to actually, get in and make use of it? Is that a possibility? Right. And secondarily is if that structure's still there, how does that negatively impact, my field of view or field of fire from your new position? Because it could negatively affect it as well. So those are really the two main things. Obviously, site manager, facilities managers and stuff, they care about aesthetics. So, not all sites want to have, abandoned guard booths across their site. So that's another consideration.
Yeah.
So, can you walk me through? So you've worked with a lot of clients and delivered a lot of BREs. So can you kind of give me a success story from beginning to end? You going from a site visit, kind of making whatever recommendations we might have through the design review process and all that.
Yeah, so a good solid site to go off of would be one that's located over in the cold, and that's going to be Point Beach, located in Wisconsin. So they get that Great Lake effect snow. And you've been down there quite a few times with me, so you suffered through the cold doing these walk downs and whatnot. So I mean, that's essentially how it all starts, right? They get the name or the word out of what we do or how we do it. Like, cool. Hey, can you go ahead and do this walk down with me? And unfortunately, you weren't there with me during this walk down, but going out and doing the walk down with previous project manager Greg Groening, and walking a few of these BREs down and saying, hey, we'd like to go ahead and put these BREs here, here, and here. And essentially what they wanted to do is take what they currently had, shrink it down, but build it up top and place it more or less in intersections on the paths where they knew that they had to go ahead and get the crawler. And the crawler is something that just goes ahead and brings around, I want to say it was about 24 feet wide. But that crawler is coming around and taking up quite a bit of room. So like, hey, we need to go ahead and shrink down as much of this footprint as possible so we can put a BRE in there, because we want to make sure that we have one, talking BREs, or at least line of sight of each BRE. Like, all right, cool. So we'll go ahead and devise some type of plan. So we worked a lot of this in the past. We worked a lot of fleets. I want to say like 3 or 4 fleets before with this type of design. And what that is actually have it here right in front of me, but the modular base. So what we can do is actually Lego press it and kind of convert it to like shrink it down, but kind of build it up as well. And so what we did is took the modular base and we took the tower and then had a wraparound structure or wraparound tower to go all the way up to their 40 foot 50 cal AP BRE. And so then we manipulated that BRE to then kind of turn at an awkward angle, but also to go ahead and go down not just one, but 2 intersections, as well as connect with every other one of these BREs. So it was a success, and I want to say, building this from drawing and then implementing and then working with the security personnel, it was definitely a successful talking point as we're doing this now. But I want to say that experience really kind of paved the way into moving forward into setting the precedent that we have the ability to customize each solution. So.
Okay. And I guess to wrap this up, like, what are the main things that security personnel, as well as like operations and engineering on the site, like, what are the fundamentals, baseline information that you would need to know to even be able to start talking about next steps as it comes to BRE design?
So the BRE design. So, I mean, honestly, you want to go to low level up. And what I mean by that is get with the technical coordinators, the security personnel, security manager, and find out exactly what they would like. I mean, they're improvising, and they're using man lifts going all the way up, drones going all the way up, and finding that particular point, or at least that height where they need their BRE, as well as the angles of fire where they need. I mean, they'll be using what you said, Rhino Core and Avert as well, to go ahead and impose that assistance and see exactly what angles of fire are going to be distributed in the right actions. But I think I think I answered that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can say for myself, usually when we're going out, like, some stuff that you definitely want to have an idea of is, number one, kind of what Matt just alluded to, is what are your security objectives? And what do you need out of the BRE from a security perspective, right? That's number one. Where you're always going to get your give and take is more so on the logistics and operational side. So security, you might have these very specific needs, but you also have to understand, like, the existing area, right? How level is the ground? What's your soil pressure? Can it support the tower section that you want to put there? So understanding what the ground looks like, are there utilities there? Is there power that can be run to the BRE there? Understanding, like, where all your utilities run to actually support and service the tower. And then outside of that, other things like you mentioned earlier, like there could be vehicle and personnel pathways you need to steer clear of, right? So understanding what size footprint, assuming I can use this ground to have the proper utilities, what footprint can I actually use for my foundation? And what will that allow me to go in terms of tower height, in terms of blast resistance, in terms of stair type. So understanding everything at the base of the tower, that's primarily where you need to have a good, firm understanding of what's going on down there before you can even talk about, what level of blast resistance that you need there.
Right.
How tall can I go? All those sorts of things. Because everything else after the fact, like your ballistic rating, your paint colors, your port locations, your comfort items,
Everyone's got their Christmas list, yeah.
All of those can be handled after the fact. But if you don't understand what's going on at the base level, then you might run into some trouble. So it's kind of my food for thought. So.
No, that's solid. And I think, obviously working, previously in a lot of sites, everyone has their Christmas list, right? And they all want to see like everything ends or all their I's dotted, T's crossed, everything within the BRE. But like you said, the base of it and then carry up.
Well, yeah, and another point, again, going back to what's going on at the ground level, is also the install side, something that gets thought of a lot of times after the fact, and we have this great idea of like, hey, the site wants to put it there, this is what the BRE is going to be like, but also during these site walkdowns, you have to take into consideration how close can a crane get, what strength and type of crane do we need that can actually access that area, all those sorts of factors. A lot of times there's power lines in the way, there's other infrastructure in the way, and so you might have a crane that's significantly far away, so you might have to have a 240-ton crane when you're doing lifts significantly less, but obviously due to the offset you have to have a stronger crane. So anyways, those are all considerations before you put pen to paper and say this is exactly what I want. Those are all kind of the things you have to think about and assess before going through. So
I think there's quite a few obstacles for you to actually reach this finished product. And like you said, if you don't know what's going on underneath, kind of screwed the pooch on that one. But going all the way up, your Christmas list will eventually get met.
So anyways, hope for everyone this was, a little helpful, little insight into, some thoughts that you should have when you're going into your assessment of new BRE placement and your defensive strategy. But again, in the future, if you guys need anything from us, be sure to reach out to us at info@kontekindustries.com, or you can email or call Matt directly, and we'll put his stuff in the description for the video. But anyways, appreciate your time, guys.
Thanks, guys.